I'm live. Hello, everybody. I'm giving it a second just so YouTube has some time to catch up. But hi, everybody. It is the second ever wine chat on this channel. And today we are going to be doing this beautiful Gamay, which is sweating. I took it out of the fridge like 30 minutes ago. Oh boy, is this just sweating like there's no tomorrow. But in particular, we are having this Gamay, or Beaujolais, as they say. And yeah, I'm excited. So I figured since we're getting close to Halloween and, let's talk about some spooky stuff. So I figured, hey, let's talk about like paranormal romance. Like that's like what we're going to be doing. And yeah, no, that's all I got. I figured we're going to like find the direction of the conversation as we go. Let's see. So I got a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Let's talk about Gamay in general for a hot second. Oh, thank you. I like this shirt too. I was like, I have a whole skull motif going on today. All of the skulls, like all of my decorative skulls, they're here to play. So Gamay in general. This is kind of relatively a lighter bodied red wine. So a lot of people who don't like that bitter taste you get at the end of some red wines, that tannin, this might be a good choice because it has less tannins in general. Not all of them, but in generally speaking, it's got less. Hi, Marina. How are you? Thank you for coming. So like I was saying, lighter bodied red. And it's always super fruity and it has like a lot of floral characteristics actually. So it smells great, it tastes great. And since it's kind of lower on the tannin side, it really goes with a lot of different kind of foods. I call it Thanksgiving wine, honestly, because it kind of goes with almost everything you would get at Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is an American holiday. I think Canada has a Thanksgiving as well, but basically you make a bunch of food and you get together with a family. And, of course, since it's an American holiday, it's based on, horrible atrocities. We're not going to get into that right now. Oh, Bethany was wearing the same shirt, Beth? I do know we have the same shirt, so that's actually really funny. Okay, so like I said, wine key, just in case you guys weren't here last time, you have a top of a bottle, wine key. It has a little screw. A lot of people try to put the little tip of the screw right in the middle of the bottle. It's not as easy. You want to put it kind of closer to off center because the screw itself isn't centered. And then, you screw down. So yeah, Ike was saying this is Thanksgiving wine. And wine key, you have two little tops. Like this has a little lip right there. Pull. Come over to your second little lip. Oh. I realize a lot of people don't know how to use wine keys, so I'm just giving lessons as we go, little fun knowledge bits. Yeah, so Thanksgiving wine. It kind of goes with everything that you eat at Thanksgiving. I think it would go well with like, I'm a vegetarian, so take this with a grain of salt, but I think it goes well with like herby meat. So like turkey with like, like the herb rub, stuffing. I think all those go together well. It's yeah, so because it has that floral character, I just feel like it goes with a lot of herbs. So like herb de Provence, I think would go with very well. Anyway, look at that. So as you can see, not quite as dark as usual for reds. It's a little lighter. You see it a little swirl. Give it a smell. So when you smell it, you're gonna get a lot of red fruits on the nose. Personally, for me with Gamay, I usually get a lot of pomegranate. I don't know about everyone else, but usually I get a lot of pomegranate and a lot of like raspberry, cherry, that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, Steph. Hello. It has been a long time. Thanks for coming, girl. So anyway, so yes, You're gonna get a lot of red fruit. You're gonna get a lot of floral notes. Like personally, I get a nice like violet, maybe. I don't know. There's always a little floral touch. There's a lot of red fruit. I get pomegranate, I get cherry, that kind of thing on the palate. You don't have to do the slurpy thing. This is what I do in sommelier school. But whoo, it's very, very punchy on the palate, which is nice because it's not really, Gamay in general isn't super complex, but it's easy to drink and it's really fruity, usually has a higher acidity. So it goes well with a lot of foods that have more fattiness to them. So it would go well, like I was saying, with Thanksgiving foods, there's a lot of butter involved. I think it would go really well with that because the acid in it will cut through that. Also, it's just like fun to drink. I think it's a nice medium. The body is kind of not that heavy, but it could be medium bodied. I would say medium to high acidity. Alcohol is pretty medium to low. I think it's maybe. Let me see. Hold on. I'm gonna say 11 to 12. Let me double check. Holy moly, 14.5. This is woohoo. That is a way boozier than I was expecting it to be. But I think it's that acidity that's hiding the booze because it just tastes more fruity than anything else. So this is trouble wine. So use caution whilst drinking. Mm. But anyway, let's go a little bit over like Beaujolais in general. So Beaujolais, it is an AOC. So it is basically there's areas in France that has been regulated so that certain types of wines grow there. So if you just call it a Beaujolais, the Gamay part is like assumed because that's what they grow in Beaujolais to be an AOC. If you're not doing Gamay, then it's not a Beaujolais, essentially. But you can grow other stuff there if you want. But Beaujolais in France, it's right underneath Burgundy. And it's going to have a lot of the similar characteristics of Burgundy. So like the floral note that you get in a lot of Pinot Noir, it's going to be here. I guess these guys, they're like cousins. I would say Gamay and like Pinot Noir are probably cousins. They got similar vibes. This is just like lighter on the palate than I think than Pinot Noir is, but that's me personally. In a lot of different places, like especially Burgundy, France, a lot of them, they have different levels of wine in the fanciness factor. So you have, in Beaujolais, there's like basically three. You have just Beaujolais, then you have Beaujolais Village, and then you have the Beaujolais Cru. So basically you have Beaujolais, that's just like, hey, these are just grown anywhere. It's just whatever, loosey-goosey, just all over the place. Whatever wine we got, we all stuck it in a barrel and made it Beaujolais. Nothing wrong with it though, but that's also going to be much cheaper in general because it's easier to produce. There's, yeah, you could just use a lot more grapes from other places in it. So, I don't know, about 15, 12 to 15, I think would be an okay price for an entry level. Personally, I picked a Beaujolais Village, so that's the second level up. And when you have a Village level, you're using better land. Essentially, there's certain areas that are designated for Village level. So you're using, they're closer to the north. So you're getting closer to Burgundy, and Burgundy's like the top of the top for wine. And also, they're a bit more complex in general because the wine making process is a bit more regulated. Also, it's a bit more, and it's just fancier because it's the next level up. So it's a bit nicer. This one in particular, I don't know how it's so cheap. I think this is like 13 or 14. Honestly, I think maybe like 16 to 20 would be a good level for payment on Village. And then you have the Crus, which are the expensive ones. You can pay like $40 for them. And those are great. Don't get me wrong. I like them. There's a one called Fleury, I think is chef's kiss. It's really beautiful. They're much more complex. They come from the best vineyards, the best soils in the area. Yeah, usually they're about 30 to 40 roundabout. But yeah, you're paying more because it's like a fancier area they made it in. There's fewer grapes they can use because it has to come from certain vineyards. So that's what the payment plan here is. But I think Beaujolais Village is great just for drinking wine purposes. It's barely inexpensive, but it's a little nicer than just regular Beaujolais. So that's why I went with the Village level. Why not? Let's be medium fancy. Mm. So I don't know if everyone bought the same wine or they just got something else. This is Beaujolais on it, but if you're drinking along with me, let me know in the comments. How are you liking it? Are you guys enjoying? Danny, it does have a high acidity though, but like I like it in that red because it's really rare in red to have that high acidity with less tannin structure. So some people might call that a bit unbalanced, but personally, I call it fun because it's just fun to drink. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a wine I'm going to be like cellaring and exploring the flavor profile on. I'm going to open this bottle and drink it. That's what my goal is. And I feel like it's providing exactly what I wanted for my goal. So for me, I think it works. So, a little bit more. Let's do some more educational stuff before we start talking about some books. So Village level, let's talk about that since that's what we're drinking today. In particular, there's about, I think there's 35 to 38. I can't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere in there. Different villages, and that's the areas that you can grow Village in. So it's very narrow, like 38 in the whole area. Like that's not a lot of vineyards. And vineyards are small there. This is Europe. Everything's tiny. So like a vineyard is like one hill. So there's not a lot of areas to grow this on. In general, we're not going to get into whole like viticulture here, but the soils are much different. They're a little rockier. They're a little clay based, I think. So it comes out in the wine a bit. It's not the greatest of soils, but these grapes grow very well there actually in it. And yeah, so also let's talk about just Gamay for a second. This is actually its home turf. Like this is where Gamay originated. So personally, when I want Gamay, I'm gonna go Beaujolais because that's where its home turf is. That's where it originated. There are some other places that are making Gamays. Australia makes some. And then I found some from Canada, and I'm like, why is Canada making wine? It is way too cold of a climate, but I guess they're making it there. And yeah, I don't know. All the other Gamays I've tried haven't liked it as much, so I just go straight Beaujolais. Also, they're not too expensive. You're getting a fancier French wine, like, ooh, it's French, it says Beaujolais. So you're gonna feel a little fancy, and it's like relatively inexpensive. Like 16 bucks, I think 16, $18 would be a great price for this. I would have paid it easily, not even thought about it. So I was mentioning a little bit earlier, great Thanksgiving wine because it has that acidity. It's going to cut through any like buttery stuff. Has that floral note, so it's going to go with a lot of different herby type of dishes. Herbe de Provence plus Gamay. It's a beautiful combo. So I think this would go great with like stuffing. It would go good with turkey. I don't really know because I eat tofurkey because I'm a vegetarian, but I feel like it would still go. So I'm not the best person to ask about meat pairings, but like off of smell, I would assume it would go well. And yeah, so that's kind of like the vibe with Gamay. It's relatively higher acidity and lower tannin. So you don't get that like bitter taste at the end, which a lot of people, they're like, oh, red, it tastes so bitter. And that's when the tannins. And this one just has less tannins. So it's a good drinking wine, you know what I mean? In general, I was mentioning a bit earlier, Beaujolais is right underneath Burgundy in France. And Burgundy is the fanciest fancy wine. And then Beaujolais, it's like cool cousin, you know what I mean? So a lot of the wines have very similar taste profiles. They don't taste the same, but they taste similar, like they're cousins. So I think it's a good way to start if you want to like explore that area and get into Burgundy. Maybe start with Beaujolais because you know you're getting the lay of the land, and you're like, okay, let's try something else, and it'll be like a different flavor, but like similar enough that you kind of know what you're getting into. So I recommend that. Like I was saying earlier, I get a lot of pomegranate out of this. I don't know about anyone else out there. A lot of red fruit. I get pomegranate. I get cherry, I get strawberry, I get that floral note. A lot of people say violets. I don't really know what violets smell like, but that's what they say. But it definitely has like kind of a floral, flowery note on the nose and the palate. So if you like that, great. It's very floral and pretty smelling. Yeah, and it's tart, it's fruity, it's just fun to drink, essentially. And yeah, that's about it on Gamay. Does anyone have any like questions about Gamay in general? Maybe we can talk about that before we get into some like spooky paranormal books. Okay. If a question comes up, we'll stop and talk about it. So yeah, if you guys got a nice little Beaujolais with me, I'm glad we're all drinking together. It's kind of fun just to have a drink with everybody. So it's getting close to Halloween, and I figured we'd talk about some paranormal romance. And I got a big stack right here, like right there in front of me. And I figured, hey, these are ones I've read or I can recommend, etc. So here we are. This one, A Quick Bite by Lindsay Sands. This is the start of her Argano series. Mind you, there is like 34 books in the series at least. It is insanely long. How many books are in it? I don't know. It hasn't been coming out for 34 years, so at least a couple come out a year. This lady's just churning these out like nobody's business. But I just read this one recently. Spoiler alert, I haven't done my wrap up yet, but you guys are getting the inside scoop. It is like a 3-star read. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's a fine book. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm like, it could have been a lot better. And I'm assuming books that are later in the series, maybe she got like her training wheels off and like has hit her like peak, because this one is like not the best book. But it's fine. It's like there's a vampire lady and she has a blood phobia. If she sees blood, she faints. And then her mother kidnaps a psychiatrist and she's like, here, fix her problem, psychiatrist. And he's like, I have been kidnapped. And then, you know, romance ensues. So that's kind of the vibe here. But it's vampires. If you're a vampire person, this book has like 34 books in it at least. So you got a lot to cover here and you have plenty to go off on. Let's see. Only $10. That's a deal. That's really good. So that's about the Gamay, everybody. A Nouveau, like a Beaujolais Nouveau. I'm not sure, honestly. I wish I had an answer for that, but I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure. I don't know if unless I'm looking at it, I think. Okay, since we're talking about vampires, let's talk about more vampires. Next up, Halfway to the Grave by Janine Frost. So this one is like a bit more rock and roll, I would say. Now there's like musicians in here, but it's vampires, but it feels more rock and rolly. And we have this woman, she is like a half vampire and she like hunts bad vampires. And then she has this like vampire boyfriend who's like Spike from Buffy, but like sexier. And I'm like, yes. Any of you out there Buffy heads? Because like Spike was my fave. I know. People are like either love Spike or hate Spike. I'm a Spike fan, and this is like sexy Spike. So I was like, yes. And this book also has like 5 or 6 books in it, I think. And then there's a spinoff. So there's plenty of vampire goodness. And like they have like vampire sex in this. Like I'm just gonna tell you right now. And there's like a lot of vampire books where they have sex and like, oh, someone gets bit. Like, ooh, whatever. And I'm like, no. Like these people are doing like some vampire shit. Like fangs are going into places you don't expect. And it's like, wow, that's like some vampire shit. So there's that. If that sounds appealing to you, go for it. But this one's a bit like action-packed. There are, you know, assassins and like hunting bad vampires and like a government agency of vampire hunters, etc. Sexy ladies, sexy Spike vampire, rock and roll guy. It's got a lot of good stuff here and it's fun. It's a fun series. Mhm. I'm just doing my sips in between books. And by the way, shout out in the comments if you guys have any other uh, paranormal romances you're really into. Maybe I haven't found it yet, but I do have a stack in front of me. Maybe I'll say it. I don't know. If you have a good rec, let me know in the comments. Also, go over here. Let's switch it off. Yeah. Fantasy Lover by Sherilyn Kenyon. So I just picked the first book. Any like series I'm going to recommend, I just picked the first book of, regardless of whether or not the first book is the best book in the series. So just take that with a grain of salt. But this is the Dark Hunter series. This is another one. There's like 30 something books in. A lot. A lot of books in it. So if you like one, you can like more of them. And this one, I'm going to tell you guys again, also vampires. There's a lot of vampire books and I'm into it. However, this is like a different take on vampires because these is like involving the Greek gods in it. So there's that and also vampires, but they're not like necessarily like a vampire. They get created by Artemis, the Greek goddess, and then like that's just like a byproduct of their creation as being these immortal warriors that they also got to drink blood. Go with it. So it's vampires, but there's also other like creatures as well. There's like werewolves and like other stuff, and there's some really good ones. Like there is like these werewolves. It all takes place in New Orleans, and he gets with this woman and her dad is like the neuter king of New Orleans. He's a veterinarian who just neuters dogs. So I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be an awkward family dinner, everybody. So it's a lot of like rom-com antics, but also like action-packed paranormal peril, werewolves, vampires, etc. Greek gods too. Like it's got a lot of stuff going on. So it's a fun series, got a lot of books in it. Also really funny, like laugh out loud funny, I would say. Let's see. Beth, thank you for looking that up. Beaujolais Nouveau is a red wine made from Gamay grapes produced in the Beaujolais region of France. It is the most popular vin de primeur, fermented for just a few weeks. Oh, okay. So I would think that was just like a regular Beaujolais level. Village, it would be aged longer than that. But yeah, I mean, if you like it, drink it. There's nothing wrong with regular Beaujolais. I just usually go for a Village because I want to feel fancy. Oh my gosh. Look how sweaty. Like, girl, are you okay? So, fun fact about reds. I didn't really talk about this last time because we were drinking white wine. But red wine, everyone's like, oh, you could drink it room temperature. And I don't think people realize room temperature is like 60 to 65 degrees. So room temperature is chilled. It's not hot. Don't drink it warm. Your wine should not be 70 or 80 degrees when you drink it. That is absurd. Personally, put the wine in the fridge. Put it in the fridge, take it out 30 minutes before you're going to drink it. By the time you drink it, it's going to be perfect temp. It's going to change the whole flavor profile. It's going to taste much fruitier, and the tannins are going to be more mellow. Trust me, put it in your fridge. Red wine is supposed to be served chilled, just not as chilled as like white wines in particular. So let's go. A more underrated one, I would say, is Pleasure Unbound by Larissa Ione, and this is the Demonica series. I think there's like 5 books in the original series, and then there's like a spin-off of 4. So there's like 9 books here. So you got plenty of smutty delights to go for. And this one is like, if you like Grey's Anatomy, I think you're going to get into this because it's like a demon hospital. What? Yes, it is. So there's these like brothers. They're Seminist demons. I know that is gross because their name is based on semen. Like let's not beat around the bush here. They're Seminist demons, and they own a hospital. And they like help other demons because not all demons are bad. There's some demons like, oh, I'm a demon, but I eat pumpkins. Like that's my demonry. I eat all the pumpkins in the patch. You know, they're not all like bad, evil demons. And so they have a hospital and they help them. And then, you know, they have like sexy ladies along the way. And also there's like the spin-off series is with like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So there's apocalyptic level stuff going on here. And, you know, drama, medical drama, also like, you know, peril, action. I think one of the brothers is like a treasure hunter. So you have like a Lara Croft kind of character, but like a dude, and all kinds of stuff. And you have all these different like races of like demons. You have vampires too. You have like all kinds of stuff. But yeah, if you like Grey's Anatomy, and also Paranormal Smutty Delights, this is like their baby. I think you guys would really like this one. And I feel like it's underrated. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but it's actually a really fun series. Okay. Yes, I get that a lot. A lot of people don't like the tannins in reds because they're bitter. They don't like that bitter taste. Like Gamay has so low tannins, like you don't get any. It's just this is trouble wine though. Be careful because this one in particular, this is 14.5. Also, like let's go over alcohol by volume for a second, especially on wines. Um, so they put an alcohol by volume label on it and they tell you what it says. However, most of the time it's bullshit because they are allowed to be within like a whole percentage off and it's fine. So when you see something, oh, 12%, but it is boozy, you could be drinking 13 to 13.5% alcohol actually, and they just didn't put it on the label. It's kind of a loose science here. So alcohol by volume level on a bottle is more of like a guideline. It's not necessarily accurate. And I don't think a lot of people know that. It's like not very accurate. This one doesn't taste boozy because okay, let's go over this for a second. I do the Slurpee sommelier thing you don't have to do. So when you blow out after you just swallowed, usually you feel heat in your mouth, and that's the alcohol. And something super boozy, you're like, I am a dragon, I am breathing fire. Like you feel all that heat. This one, you do feel the heat, but there's so much acidity here, it kind of masks it. So like now that I'm blowing out now, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of boozy. That's boozy. But like the acidity tricked me. So it comes off tasting like a 12%, but this is 13.5. So, oh boy. Drink with caution. After this video, actually, after a little live chat, I'm actually going to go film the rest of Drunk Classics. I'm doing Phantom of the Opera. I have the second half of the book to read. So like, I don't want to go in already drunk. So I'm going to pace myself. Because like already I'm feeling pretty good. This is delicious. Mm. This is why you're going to get into trouble on. It does, actually. There is something, it's called terroir, Terroir. It's French, but it just basically means the land, the environment in which it's grown. And it is a factor. Like there's certain grapes that grow really, really, really well in certain areas because they get certain weather conditions. And sometimes like soils grow different grapes. Some grapes can't grow in all kinds of soil. They need a different kind of soil to really like bloom properly. A lot of rockier soils are good for wines that need a lot of heat in order to like, you know, properly ripen, because rocks pick up a lot of heat from the sun. You get a lot of rocks on the ground, it's just going to like radiate that heat up. So like all the vines that need a lot of heat to like ripen, like a Cabernet Sauvignon that needs a lot of heat, rocky soil, it's going to be your best friend because it's going to produce more heat. Then you have a lot of wines that are just like, ooh, I don't like heat. I'm sensitive. Like Pinot Noir doesn't like heat. You don't want a bunch of rocky soil because you're going to ruin your crop. So there is like science here and viticulture that like I know some of because I am certified in this, but like I'm not an expert, but I do know the basics. There's certain wines that just don't grow good in some climates, and there's certain wines that grow kind of good everywhere. Like Chardonnay, for example. That's like a really resilient grape. It kind of grows everywhere. It grows in cool climates. It grows in warm climates. It just likes to grow. When you have a cool climate Chardonnay as opposed to a warm climate Chardonnay, does the flavor taste different? Yes, it does, because it ripens at different times. So this is just agriculture. Then we're not going to get into a whole chemistry lesson here. But when the wines ripen a lot because they get a lot of heat. They bloomed completely. They're super ripe. You're going to get a different flavor than wines that are in a cooler climate that don't get as much sunlight. They don't get as much time to ripen. So the flavor there isn't going to be as sweet, as unctuous. It's going to be more acidic. You're going to get more citrus kind of tones. Then if you go to a more warm climate like California, for example, Napa Valley, if you're growing Chardonnay there, you're going to get much more tropical fruit flavors. You're going to get like mango, banana, that kind of flavor, as opposed to like ones in France, like Burgundy, for example. They grow a lot of Chardonnay. Actually, they only grow Chardonnay and Pinot Noir in Burgundy. Fun fact. Those wines are going to taste much different because it's a cooler climate. So they're going to taste much more lemon, green apple. You're going to get more citrusy, more tart fruits. So it does make some difference. It kind of depends what you're into. For example, like Australia, it's a very kind of warm climate. All their wines are very punchy. So if you want like wha-bam in the palate, like that's the best way to describe the sensation is wha-bam. Go for Australia. They got a lot of different stuff and they're very concentrated flavors, I would say. Their Shiraz, which is the same as Syrah, is just a different spelling. Their Shiraz is like, whoo boy, it's like whoo, so much red in your mouth. And then their Sauvignon Blanc, especially New Zealand, is really known for that. It definitely tastes a lot different than Sauvignon Blanc you would get in like the Loire Valley in France. It's is much more punchy. So heat plays a factor, soil plays a factor. There's a lot of different things that go into the agriculture before you even get to winemaking. So hope that helps answer the question. Let's see. Cabernet Sauvignon grow in places like Australia or more desert climates? Well, nothing really grows in the desert, but I get what you mean. They like hot weather. So there is a lot of Cabernet, Syrah or Shiraz they grow in Australia that a lot of people really like because it's so warm. So it definitely grows better there. If you're in a cool climate, like you can grow Cabernet, but I don't know if it's going to be as like Cabernet tasting as you're going to get in a warm climate. Yeah, so Australia would be good for like those type of wines as well. They have a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon. Personally, if I'm going Australia, I like Syrahs. They do it very well. Look for something from the Barossa Valley. Oh my gosh. Like I have my options for next week right here. I almost picked an Australian one and I didn't, but we'll get to there eventually. I didn't pick it because it's a little expensive. But Barossa Valley Shiraz, chef's kiss. It's so good. But yeah, they don't necessarily need it. Well, they need it, but like it's not the end of the world. We'll put it there. They're not going to grow well in a cold climate, but like if it's a moderate climate, you could pick it late in the season so it gets as much ripening time as possible. So it is possible to do that. It just grows best in hot climates because then it's going to ripen faster. Hope that answers the question. Okay, so paranormal romance. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments. I love talking about wine, and I'm glad like I have people to talk about it with. Like I love my boyfriend, but he can only listen to me for so long. So next up, let's talk about The Darkest Night by Gina Showalter. So this is the Lords of the Underworld series. Much beloved. Like anybody who's a paranormal romance nerd has read this series. It is also Greek god based. We were talking about that earlier. And also this is kind of dealing like Pandora's box. This is more demon based. And basically, okay, Pandora's box. The Greek gods put all like the sins in it. All the demons are in this box. They open it. Pandora didn't open it. She was charged with like protecting it. All these other warriors who were her buddies, they like said, fuck you. And they took the box and they opened it. All the demons got out. And the Greek gods were like, you had one job. They were not happy about it. So they grabbed all the demons. And they're like, fine, we put them all in a box. You're not cool with that? they're going in you. So they put a demon per warrior. And then like eventually they ran out of like warriors, so they had more demons. They're like, okay, inhabitants in Tartarus, you're getting demons too. So like there's all these people who are like, for example, this book. Let's just go with this one. This is the first book of the series. You have Maddox. He is an immortal warrior named Maddox, and he's also the keeper of Wrath. No, not Wrath. What is he the keeper of? He's not Wrath, some other demon. Like violence or anger or something. He keeps a demon in him, so he's two things at once. And so it's like he's Maddox and the keeper of this demon. And then they fight battles. They're still fighting Greek gods. At one point, like this series is so long. I'm like, this is also like probably a 20 to 30 book series. They get into the Titans, who kind of get loose for a while, and they're fucking shit up. And then Hera's like, I've had it with Zeus. I don't care if I burn down the universe. Zeus is gonna get it. So like there's like apocalyptic god battles here. And also, people finding love and smutty delights. Lots of demons, a lot of Greek gods. So it's a great series. Personally, spill some tea here. The later books of this series, not very good. I said what I said. The beginning books of this series, like I think like the first 15, so good. And then, oh boy, things went downhill. Like I don't read stuff from Gina Showalter anymore, but like the beginning books of the series are so incredible that I had to put it on this list. But like, oh boy, the later ones are just not as good. I don't know what happened. Maybe I outgrew the author. I'm not sure, but like, yeah, it's something went awry there. But I do recommend the series in general. Okay. Had a little drink break. Yeah, let me know if you have more questions about wine. Until there is a wine question, I'm going to talk about books. So, moving on with everything, I also want to talk about the OG. Okay, this is A Hunger Like No Other by Cresley Cole, aka the Immortals After Dark series. Again, paranormal romance nerds have read this whole series. It is like the chef's kiss of paranormal romance. Everyone loves it. I have not found a paranormal romance nerd who don't love this. And I just, again, picking the first book of the series. Are there better books in the first book? Yeah. I still like the first one though. So this is also like kind of New Orleans based for some of it. They move around, but it's mainly New Orleans based. And there's all these different types of immortals. And then every few millennia, they have this kind of culling that kind of brews in the background until all out war breaks out. And it's kind of like this weird cosmic population control amongst immortals. So things have been happening, and there are all these different races of immortals. There's like werewolves, there's vampires, there's Valkyrie, there's demons, there's witches, there's sorceresses, which are different. So there's all of these different races, and they all kind of get together in different things. And there's so many characters that I love. This series is laugh out loud funny at times. Also, these two are besties, and they had different publishers, so they couldn't actually do a crossover episode. However, they make like very obvious references. So they take place technically in the same universe, but the publishers are different, so they couldn't officially make that the case, but they do. So fun fact, they take place in the same universe. And yeah, so you have a lot of like, I love the Valkyries in this. They're kind of party girls, but they're also badass. I love them. And there's harpies. There's so many different immortals. Like this is like your immortal grab bag. So all kinds of paranormal delights in here. The smut, A+. Some of the earlier books, I will say, might be a product of their time, because there are moments where you're like, that, I don't know if that consent was really laid out properly. On occasion, you're a little like, oh, I don't know about that. But I mean, in the end, they're cool with it. But I'm like, so just take it with a grain of salt that these are like older books. This has been coming out. When did this come out? I think the early 2000s. Let's double check. 2006. Yeah, this came out a while ago. Not saying in 2006 that was right, but like as a product of its time, that's kind of how the books were. Grain of salt. The only problem with the series in general is that Cresley Cole has not put out a book in several years. Like, I'm not the person who could talk shit. And I'm not going to talk shit. I'm not going to say anything about them because, like, obviously I don't know the whole story. But, like, I do know Cresley Cole has some health issues. And I think that was, like, a contributing factor. And she keeps saying she's going to put out books, but she just hasn't. So, it's incomplete. But there are a lot of books in it, though. There's, like, at least 20 books you can, like, go play with in the meantime. So, if you haven't started it, this is a good one. Next one. Okay. This next one I'm going to put up because this is a series that like no one has read and I love it intensely. Why have not people read this? And it, like, I don't know. I don't have words for it, but like I love it so much. So, Sealed with a Curse by Ceci Robson. This is a little 5-book series. It's short, but it's legit one of my all-time favorite series. It is so good, and no one's read this. I have not read anyone who's just read this on their own unless I've made them read it. So you'll thank me later. It's fantastic. And I think it's really, really good if you like Alona Andrews. So if you like paranormal romance and you like more urban fantasy kind of things, you're really going to like Ceci Robson. She has a lot of good stuff that's like good for like Alona Andrews fans. And this one, we're talking about the Weird Girls. So there's these like 4 sisters and then the Weird Sisters. And essentially they got like cursed. So they all have like different abilities. Like Cecilia, our main heroine for this series. There's 2 spin-off series coming with other sisters. But Cecilia. So she is like, she's a tigress. She doesn't say she's a were-tigress. She just is a tigress who also is a human. There's a difference, apparently, in the book. But there you go. So, yeah, it's these 4 sisters, and there's 5 books. And there's all kinds of different, like, immortals. There's, like, witches. There's werewolves. A lot of werewolves. If you're a werewolf fan, it's got a lot of werewolves. And it's also got vampires, and it's laugh out loud hilarious. Cecilia is going to be like a Kate Daniels kind of heroine where you're like, oh my gosh, I love her intensely and I want to follow everything she does. So if you like Alona Andrews books, try out Ceci Robson. Try out this series. It's so good. I'm obsessed with it. Beth, I love you. Thank you. I know on Kindle it's pretty cheap. At least it used to be. I think it's only like a couple bucks. So like worst comes to worst, if you don't like it, you're out a couple bucks. It's not the end of the world. My hair was going crazy. Sorry about that. Anyway, this is really, really good. And I tell everybody about it because it's so fun. Let's see. Okay, Anita Blake. Before it got, Danny. I hear that a lot. Now, I've only read the first book of that series, and like I wasn't like crazy into it, but I have heard about the later books. Like everyone's like, "Oh, but the later books though?" Like apparently it's just straight porn, the later books. And whoo boy. So for that one, I guess I was talking about this one a bit. No, not this one. Which one was it? Hold on, let me find. I'm gonna get there. This one I was talking about. I think this would be a good choice if you're super into Anita Blake, because it's also a vampire hunter and sexy vampires. And it's much shorter too. This is only 5 books, and it doesn't get weird. Like I know there's some weird stuff with like shape shifting in the Anita Blake series that I'm like not okay with. Like here's my deal. I love a good werewolf story. Love them. Love werewolf stories. But like when you're going to be doing the smutty bits, no one can be in a wolf form. I don't think it's that much to ask, and I know like Anita Blake is infamous for getting into that area. And I'm like, no, thank you. So, yeah, everybody is fully in human form whilst smutty bits are happening. So I think that might be a good combo. I'm sure there's more, but that's the one I have off the top of my head. So hopefully that helps. If you've already read it too, I'll think on it and let you know. Let's see. Ooh, wholesome? Okay. I don't know what you mean by wholesome though. If you mean like not smutty, I don't think I can answer it. However, that Immortals After Dark series I was talking about, there are ghosts. There's let me just I have her behind me. Hold on, I'm gonna grab it. Okay. No. No. Okay. 1 second. Am I wearing sweatpants? Yes, I am. So this one has a ghost heroine. So it's a vampire and a phantom, and they get together. Here's the deal. Naomi. She is like in the early 20s, like 20th century, early 1900s. She was a ballerina, a prima ballerina, and her fiance was obsessed with her, like to the point he like murdered her. And now she's a ghost in this house. And then Conrad moves into the house, and he is like a crazy vampire because there's different kinds of vampires in this world. And he's like a little loosey goosey in the head. And then like he can see her, and she's like, oh, like this is gonna be great. And then like they have this romance, but mind you, he can't touch her because she's a ghost. He can try, but he's just gonna go right through her body. And then like eventually, I'll tell you, she gets a body eventually. Like spoiler alert, that's not really a spoiler. Obviously, that's going to happen. But like there's ghosts, there's phantoms in this series. And it's not only this book, there's a couple other books that involve phantoms as well. And eventually they get bodies and stuff too. Or like there's a whole like mythology of phantoms in here that we're not going to get into. But yeah, phantom ballerina and a crazy vampire. They do it. And also, fun fact is about me. This is actually the first romance novel I ever read in my whole life. So Dark Knees and Night's Edge by Cresley Cole. I was in college, and my friend's like, hey, Amanda, you should read this. And I'm like, why should I read this? She's like, a vampire and a ghost, do it. And I was like, give me this book. So, yeah, if you want some ghost romance, I think this one is going to like work for you. It's going to be really good. It is smutty, but like it can't be so smutty for a while because she's a ghost and literally he can't touch her. So the tension, if you want a slow burn tension story, oh boy. Let's see. Okay, very cool. Yeah, Texas actually has some wineries. They're a little up and coming. They're quite warm. Obviously, it's Texas, but a lot of warmer climate wines are kind of growing out there now. There's a lot of like flat farmland. Wine in general, though, like here's the thing. Before like I learned anything about viticulture and all that kind of stuff, I thought like, oh, you want a bunch of flat land for growing grapes because that's like easier. And actually, a lot of the fanciest wines in the world are grown on hills, which is crazy, right? Because you can't get any mechanical equipment up a hill. They're steep. They're not like, oh, like a little bit of an incline. No, these are steep hills. You can't bring a tractor up it. It's just going to roll down the hill. Like, so most of those grapes are hand-picked, which is, you know, adding to the price. A lot of wines that are machine picked are on flat land. Nothing wrong with them. They're but it's more for like mass produced. Oh, hiccup. Sorry, mass produced wines. Behringer, for example. I know everyone knows Behringer White Zinfandel. $8 at the grocery store. That is like a mass produced flatland machine harvested wine. So you can do like so much harvesting in one day. It kind of is just much easier. So that's why it's so cheap to produce. Not saying that Texas does that. I'm sure Texas does have hills. I know it's flat, but it also has hills as well. So, but yeah, Texas has some new stuff coming up. I have a class I signed up for. It's about the American wine industry because I know much more about the European wine industry than I know about American. So I signed up for this class. And then it got postponed. So now my class that was supposed to be in November is now next August. So eventually I will know for sure about the viticulture of Texas. But like I was expecting to learn it next month, and that's not happening until August now. So back to paranormal romance. So let me tell you about this series. This is the Nightbreed series or Midnight Breed series. And okay, Kiss of Midnight by Lara Adrian. This is kind of a crossover paranormal romance and sci-fi romance because technically they're vampires, but also they're aliens. So alien vampires. I know, crazy. But like it all, and then it gets crazier because it also involves Atlantis. You know, the lost city of Atlantis? They were here and they were doing stuff. And then like vampire aliens came, and apparently vampire aliens are capable of like mating with like Atlanteans because they have special genetic codes. And then like now we're in the modern day. So they're technically vampires. They have like full body tattoos. Like the older they are, they have more markings on their bodies, like an alien, like birthmarky markings type of thing. And they change color with arousal. So like, ooh, they're getting dark. He's got a boner. That kind of thing. You know, it's like a warning system. But they're alien vampires. And yeah, I know. You know, they're alien vampires. So if you want a little dash of sci-fi in your stories, great. But like, mind you, the alien vampires, like originals, they came thousands of years ago. These are all of the descendants of them. So this very modern day, they didn't just get off the spaceship. Like they've been here, they've grown up here. This is where they've lived their whole life. But it's just kind of a weird thing with their physiology from their home planet to Earth, that like sunlight is really toxic to them and they have to drink more blood. It's just kind of like a thing, how like the two environments of their two different worlds aren't exactly completely compatible. So like this is how they've had to survive in this new environment. So like there's science here, albeit it's complete nonsense science, but it exists. It's science. But this is another one that's got a whole ass ton of books in it. So they do the whole original series, all these warriors, they get mates. Then time jump, 20 years later, they all had kids. All their kids getting mated too. So I'm like, oh, this can go on forever. So vampires, aliens, Atlantis. It's got a lot of different stuff going on. It's a fun series. I really enjoyed it. So hopefully if you guys haven't heard about that one, it's fun. Let's see. Yeah, there was more comments and I wasn't paying attention to them. Let's see. Okay. Oh, there you go. If you have hills, like the wines are usually nicer on hills. I gotta try this. Okay. I'll write it down. I'll look for it and see if I can find some. I am interested in trying American wines because like I've tried like European, Australian, New Zealand, all of that kind of stuff, but I haven't really like explored the Americas all that much. Like I've tried a bunch of wines from like South America, like Chilean stuff, Argentinian stuff, and like they're fine. I'm not super into it. Like Carmenere is like the most common type of wine over there. I think if you love Merlot, you would get into it. But like personally, I haven't really found like a South American wine I've like obsessed with. But that's why I signed up for my American wine class so I could learn more about America. But like they canceled it. I'm sorry, I'm just upset about it. Yeah, I know. Alien vampires, guys. It's crazy serious. Cotton. Yeah, great for cotton, not so great for like, you know, wine. But hey, they're growing some stuff in Texas. Or like the Midwest has some stuff that's up and coming. Like Ohio has some wineries too. Mainly, you know, everyone knows California. California has like a ton of wine. That's just kind of what it's known for. And then you have, you know what, surprisingly, I'm going to put this out here. Washington, like not DC, regular Washington state or Oregon, like the Willamette Valley is doing some great stuff. For example, we're going to get into this in a second, but the wines for next week, I did pick a Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley. So hey, if you guys are interested in that, just a spoiler alert. I kind of wish I didn't tell you what it was. So it would be, you know what? I've already told you what it is. So hey, before we go on, what do you guys want to drink next time? 2 weeks from now, I think that is the first Saturday in August, not August, in November. What date was that? Let me look it up. The 7th, November 7th is gonna be the next time. So do you guys want to do red, white, or rosé? So you got it, or you already had a hint on the red, but the white wine is particularly fancy. So sound off in the comments and we will pick, and I'll let you know what we're drinking next time. While you guys are picking, I'll go for my last paranormal romance I had picked out. Chicagoland Vampire series. This is the first book, Some Girls Bite, by Chloe Neal. Mind you, I got an old library copy. I got it at a library book sale. So like it's like kind of like very tough. But yeah, this is really fun. Again, I think this is like so many books and a spin-off series. It takes place in Chicago. And this is kind of, it's bordering urban fantasy. Basically, vampires are known. Everybody in the real world knows vampires exist, and they're very regulated. They have these vampire houses you have to like apply to get into. They don't just turn willy-nilly people. And they have like, you know, laws, and like they have like blood laws and everything. They're basically citizens of America, but like they're, you know, vampires. So it's kind of cool from a world building perspective. And then you have, what was this girl's name? I forget what her name is, the main character. Whoever this lady is, I forget her main character name. Oh my gosh. But she kind of accidentally gets turned into a vampire. And she ends up joining this house Cadigan. I remember the name of the house, but not her name. What's wrong with me? But anyway, she joins the vampire house, and like it's kind of her adventures. And she kind of is like the house security chief. So she like defends the house from like danger. And it's a fun series, a lot of books in it. There's a spin-off series with their children. What? Vampires aren't supposed to have kids, but they managed to have one. They had a miracle baby. Not right away. It takes a bit. Don't worry. There's not an oopsie baby right away. But this is a really beloved series. I think it's really fun, especially like it's not 100% Alona Andrews, but like I feel like it's a world that Alona Andrews would create. So if you like that kind of vibe, probably a fun series for you. I think the original series, it's like in the teens to 20s. So there's a lot of books in it. Whole bunch. So let's see. Alien romances. I didn't pick alien romances for this because those are technically, I call them sci-fi romances. They're different. There are a bunch of them. There's Isolated Barbarians, obviously. There's one of them. It's technically aliens. They're vampire aliens. They're kind of a crossover one, the Midnight Breed series. And then you have, there's this one series by Gina Showalter. I don't know what the name of it is, but it takes place in Chicago. Again, there's another Chicago story. And it's basically after like the Third World War. And the Third World War was aliens. So like all of these different races of aliens have just moved into Earth. And like humans were not cool with it at first. So there's this huge like war. The environment is like screwed because of it. And like it's just kind of like the war is over. Like not vampires. Aliens have moved here. They live here. They've become part of society. How is society moving forward? They have like this alien FBI agency. Basically humans are like, let's make sure the aliens are up to no good kind of people. And yeah, it's actually really good. It's like a sci-fi series though, but it's really fun. There's like androids and aliens and all kinds of stuff. Love it. Very great. Oh, okay. I haven't read that one, but thank you for the recommendation. I'm sure that'd be great for Danny. Another alien series. So you guys haven't been sounding off in the comments, but I had one red vote. If you guys have a vote, speak now or before we pick. It's going to be red, white, or rosé. I got one ready for all of them. I'll give you 10 seconds while I have a sip of wine. I'll wait. Mm. 2 votes for red. Okay. You know what? We're getting close to the hour mark, so we're going to call it. It's going to be red, guys. Red. It's been picked. Next time, maybe we can do rosé, Danny. But yeah, so I've picked this bottle. Oh gosh, that's light. There you go. So this is from Oregon. It's from the Willamette Valley. It's a Pinot Noir. And yes, you see like I drank some of this bottle, but it's still sealed. I'll show you guys next time I Coravin. There's like a device, basically. It's like there's like a big needle and you stick it through a cork and then you can pour wine out of the bottle without uncorking it. So basically this wine is not getting oxidized, but I can get at the wine in there because I wanted to save it. I didn't want to like drink the whole thing in one go, but there you go. So Pinot Noir, this is what we're picking next time. This one's a little pricier in general. I think this one is like, I think it's $29.99. So it's a little pricey. However, Pinot Noir is just not a cheap grape. If you find Pinot Noir for really cheap, I would not trust it. 0% trust that. There you go. So it's about $29.99, I think. So $30 isn't like too expensive, but this one in particular is fantastic. It's made by Veronique Drouin, and Drouin Estate is one of the top producers in Burgundy. And Veronique, she's the lead winemaker for Joseph Drouin Winery, and she came over to Oregon and she bought a bunch of land in the Willamette Valley. And she's like, I'll make wine here too. Why not? Do it 2 places. So you're getting Drouin style wine, which is like Grand Cru, very fancy Burgundy wines from Oregon. So is it a little pricier? Like, yeah, but it's $30. It's not like incredibly pricey, but oh boy, you're getting like a Grand Cru level Pinot Noir from Oregon. It is so good. It's very floral. It's kind of similar in tone. I would think that these guys are cousins. They're cousins a little bit. Obviously, this is the fancier cousin, but very floral. Very darker fruit. I still get like red fruit, but I get also a little bit of black fruit, so like blackberry in there, black currant. Pinot Noir in general is just a very good wine. It's just very medium bodied, medium acidity, medium tannin, medium across the board. It goes with like a lot of food because it's so like medium. So yeah, I guess we've picked it, guys. This one, I'll put a link in the description down below for this Pinot Noir. It is good. If you can't find this one in particular, the name of the winery is actually called Roserock. And I know Roserock, they do sell it at BevMo. So, hey, if you don't have a Total Wine near you, you can try BevMo, or you can try any place you want. I'm not trying to like judge. Personally, I think Total Wine is better than BevMo. But BevMo's got Roserock, so it's the same winery. So just try to get a Pinot Noir from the Oregon area. If you can't find this one in particular, it's fine. But yeah, so it's going to be Pinot Noir week. 2 reds in a row. Ooh. I'm excited. But anyway, do you guys want to see what the picks were for the other ones, the whites and the rosés? I'm going to show you anyway. So that was just a formality of a question. So this is my white pick. So this Trimbach Riesling, you guys are in for a treat. This is really good. I know people say like, oh, Riesling, it's sweet. It does not have to be sweet. This is a dry Riesling, and it is fan-effing-tastic. It's also from Alsace in France. So it's not like a German Riesling. It's a different style, but it's still Riesling. It tastes like a Riesling, but different. So this is a French Riesling. It's really, really good. I highly recommend, just in case you guys want to try it out in advance. You want advanced studies material. And then I just grabbed this rosé. This is from I believe this is, I think, Rhone Valley. This is just it's a blend, I would say. I would say this is probably Gamay based rosé. I'm thinking. I don't know. I haven't looked this up. But yeah, so these guys, this would be like buddy. Um, Basically, fun fact about rosé. How do you make rosé wine? Here's the deal. Red wine becomes red because of grape skin. So basically, you can make a white wine out of red grapes. You can, because all the insides of grapes is all white. It's all goo. Like, the inside of a grape doesn't have a color. What has a color is the skin. So basically, if you take off the skins, you can make white wine all day, every day. If you leave the skins in it and you let them in for a while, you get the red wine, for example. If you leave them in for just like a little bit, that's when you get rosé. So it's like red wine, but like weaker, essentially. They take out the skins right away, so you get some of the color, some of the flavor, but it's not a red wine. So that's how you get rosés. You can also blend a white and a red varietal, but mainly I think it's just like it's from contact with the grape skin. It's how you get a rosé. Okay, on that note, I think like a third of this, I was pacing myself because it's boozy. So thank you guys for coming. I had so much fun on the live show. It's a little, I try to just keep it about an hour. Otherwise, it's just, I'm going on and on and on forever. And next time we are going to be drinking this Pinot Noir. I'm excited, from Oregon. Oh my gosh, the lights are blowing this out. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. It's so good. Fair warning though, it's very floral. Because Pinot Noir is very floral. Like, you put it in the glass, you smell it, and you're like, this is a bouquet. Like, it's so floral, but it's really, really good. It's worth the $30. I'm obsessed with it. I just didn't want to open the bottle yet, so I Coravin it. But mind you, I'm talking about opening bottles and not explaining that. But basically, if you open a bottle, you have to drink it in like 2-3 days. You just do. Otherwise, it's not as good because it oxidizes. Like, there is a thing about letting wine breathe and react to air, and that's great. You want some air in it. It changes the flavor as it develops. However, too much air, it turns into vinegar. It's just not good anymore, especially with reds. Whites, you can maybe like extend it if you had to. It lasts a little longer than reds, but reds just, they taste like vinegar if they get too oxidized. So yeah, if you drink this with like 2 to 3 days, you're gold. You're good. You're good with it. But yeah, so basically, I didn't want to like chug that wine. I wanted to savor it, so I Coravin it. And you know what? Next time we do a live show, I'll show you guys the Coravin. It's kind of a fun tool. It's like a big needle you put it through, and you can pour wine, and it has argon gas. It's like a whole thing. But yeah, so November 7th, same time, same place, Sunday, 12 o'clock. So I don't want to drink in the morning, technically. That's just for me, so I don't feel like an alcoholic. And we'll drink some Pinot Noir. It's going to be really good. Let me know in the comments or the chat, what have you. Is there a certain topic you guys want to talk about? If so, let me know. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. I feel like this one was a lot smoother because I actually like wrote down and thought about what I wanted to say before I just went like chaos person. So I feel like this was good. The first one was a bit chaos, but like this one I think was smooth. I'm feeling good about it. So again, thank you guys so much for coming for vibes, coming for wine, coming to like have me talk your ear off. I very much appreciate it. So yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in a couple weeks for our Pinot Noir chat. It's going to be super fun. Yeah, let me know in the comments if there's something you want to talk about, and I'll take it into consideration. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Bye, everybody.